Hi everyone, my name is Abiodun Ramon Oseni. Today I'm going to be discussing the lesson learned from Taiwan with US-Israel war against Iran. This discussion is going to be based on critical analysis and 5 analyses of the lesson that Taiwan learned from Iran and United States-Israel war. It is important to state that the nature of the war may be similar, but the geographical locations is different. So based on the geographical locations, there is going to be a little change in tactics or strategy. But overall, Taiwan is learning from this war. First, it is important to also state that Taiwan learned from US-Iran war, first during the 12 days war, the way Iran responded to the war, what were the strategy applied by the United States, even though during the China and Taiwan conflict, if there is going to be one, Israel may not be able to participate directly, but I can't take out the fact that if United States should get involved, Israel too may get involved technically. But for now, I am basing the analysis on the lesson that Taiwan is learning from this war. So this lesson that Taiwan is learning from the war can be categorized into 5 classes, and I'm going to be stating them and analyzing them in detail. First, it is also important to state that Taiwan is part of China. International organizations recognize this. Even the United States of America recognize what is called One China policy. But the United States, being the hegemony power, want to contain China within the geographical zone. So the strategy is to use Taiwan to contain China, that China should be battling with that. Because if China become a regional, dominate the whole region, regional power, then it's going to be easy to project the international power. And I think US and China, they have a very competition that is high, of which China is being strategic, not to be confrontational. And I think to an extent too, US is not trying to be confrontational, but China is more of policy of not confronting US. So the 5 lessons that Taiwan is learning from the war between United States, Israel against Iran are: 1, that interceptor alone is not enough for SWAM. So when you look at the nature of the war between the United States and Iran, you are going to see that drones, ballistic missiles, play a lot of roles. But I'm going to be talking about swarms of drone or ballistic missile. The interceptor that Taiwan has, the TAS system, the Patriot system, and any other system they might have been integrated, is not enough for swarm of drone attacks. Of which I believe the Chinese can produce that in mass, and they have it in mass. So Taiwan learned from this. And what are the result of the actions that they are planning or resorting to do is that they're trying to develop a kind of T-drone with mass productions of counter-drone techs. So that's the strategy that they are trying to, once they know that the Patriot, the THAAD, and any other integrated system is not enough for the swarm drones, so they decided that what they're going to resort into is to have a kind of they're going to be developing T-drones with mass productions to counter drone tech. A drone tech, mass production of that. That's number 1. The second lesson that Taiwan is learning from the war between the United States, Israel against Iran is that they discover that centralized hub are the primary target. The centralized hub, the central command, the federal stuff, the military base, are the central target. So they are thinking about shifting their strategy to, shifting to mobile, decentralized unit, and the leadership successions plan. So that's another lesson Taiwan is learning during this war between Israel, United States against Iran. That the centralized command, the military headquarters, the naval, the RGC command, the leadership political command is a very good area of target. Now, if they destroy the central command or the command and control, it's going to be easy to win the war. So they are learning that it is important to shift to mobile tactics and decentralized units. Just the way the RGC decentralized their power, that even though the central command is destroyed, so the unit can still function by continue the war. So I think Taiwan is learning from these tactics, and they need to have a kind of succession plan. Now, if this leadership is killed, who is going to be the next leader? So once that happens, so they can carry on in going by, carry on with the war, if there's any war between Taiwan and China. And another important lesson that I think Taiwan is learning from this war is that LNG is too vulnerable to maritime blockage. We can all see that, most time people think oceans and lakes, they are barriers. They are not barriers. They are just like transportation, ways of transporting goods, just like the way we fly from one place to another, or we took buses or car drive from one place to another. They are not barriers. They are like transportation. They are ways too. So during this war, I think Taiwan also learned that LNG blockade is so easy. And when you look at Taiwan, the story that they have during this period, they only have if everything is blocked to the maximum level, they only have about 11 days in stock to be able to withstand, to be able to distribute the LNG and everything. After 11 days, 12 days, that's it. So they also learn that it's so easy to block LNG. So because of that, they trying to expand their resources, like considering, nuclear power. When I say nuclear power, like the way they can generate energy through nuclear. And even though when you say, having nuclear power, or trying to, have a kind of things to bargain. So it's part of it. But, they think, LNG, they can see the LNG is easy to block during the, once it's blocked, the economy is going to collapse. People may not be able to go to work. Flight may not be able to function, and transportations. And everything is going to be expensive because most things based on LNG, like transporting goods from one place to another. Once that is skyrocketed, then it's going to affect all other things too, just the way it's affecting the United States now. And another important lesson that Taiwan is learning from the war between United States and Israel against Iran is that United States interventions in that war, if there's anything between China and Taiwan, is that United States assistance depend on the initial resistance. That is, if Taiwan can take on China and they are able to show that they can resist, that is going to pull United States attention to, like, okay, let's help them. But Taiwan must be able to show some high level of resistance. So after showing high level of resistance, then they can be hoping that, okay, the United States is going to be on the way, or help is going to be on the way. So, and on the other hand, what they are trying to do is to focus on self-reliance. So once they focus on self-reliance to hold out until international help comes. Because Taiwan also know, they learn from Ukraine and Russia war, apart from Iran and United States, that Ukraine is trying to prove to United States and to the other European ally that they have the ability to hold out. They have the ability to stand. They have the ability to have that resilience. They have the ability to resist. So by so doing, that is going to encourage other European partners and United States to give them what they need, to supply them, what they need to supply them as ammunition, because they know they can hold on. They have the seal. So Taiwan is also seeing that in Iran, that Iran have the ability to hold on. So, and by so doing, having the ability to hold on and cause a kind of pain, that is financial pain. For instance, sending a 50,000 drones against a target and defending that with, about 3 million or, $1 billion, defensive missile is not financially sustainable, which is still going to my number one point. So they also learning to hold on. So once they can show that they can resist, so that may attract United States to come into their heads. And the last one, which is the number 5, is that the way Taiwan is learning, then China too is learning. China too is learning that, it is easy to block once the issue of, LNG coming is blocked and everything. For instance, just of recent, statistics shows that Taiwan only have about 11 days to run out of LNG. So China too is learning. And China is very powerful. China is not like Iran. China is very powerful, and I think China too have a lot of allies. Like Russia is going to come to the rescue, North Korea. So it's a different ball game. If Taiwan decided, or China decided to intervene, or to, no, I don't want to say invade, because in international system, it is believed that Taiwan is part of China, and that's why they have the one China policy. So if I say invade, so that may not be, the right word to use based on international law. But the fact is that China is very powerful, and I think, China going to war, they understand that it's not of their own interest because of the kind of development China is experiencing, and China is based its foreign policy on trade and commercial. So it is not in the interest of China, or else if it's extremely important, or it comes to the level that there is no other way out than for the Chinese to go into Taiwan. So the fact is that China is not Iran, and the geographical location is different. So the more Taiwan is learning from this war between US and Iran, on the other way around too, China too is learning from the war. And to conclude this, it is important to state categorically that diplomacy doesn't cost. It doesn't cost a lot, or it doesn't cost nothing. Instead of going to war with any country, instead of Taiwan getting ready, preparing to go to war, I think they should spend their effort in employing diplomacy. Because sometimes war, the beginning is what we do see. The end, no analysis. It's just predictions. No analysis can be very specific that this war begin now, this is how it's going to end. But everything, when the war starts, if the war should start, is going to be permutation. Like just to analyze, oh, this may happen, that may happen, it may not happen that way. We may even think it's going to be 4 days. It may be 4 years, maybe 10 years. And we experienced that during the First World War and Second World War, that they thought by December everything is going to be over. And it took many years before the war comes to an end. So it is important to state that these are the lessons and the reactions, or the resulting actions that the Taiwan policy maker, they are looking into by learning from Israel, United States war against Iran. And it is important to also balance it on the other way around too, that the Chinese people too, they were learning from this war. And the United States running out of arms and ammunition is also a lesson that, you know, the Taiwanese, they need to draw from. They need to draw from that, because the United States has used most of its ammunition in Ukraine and in Iran. Is going to take a long time to replace those ammunition. So that's one of the reasons I'm saying that diplomacy is better to spend on diplomacy and invest in diplomacy, unlike trying to invest in war equipment. I'm not saying countries should not invest in war equipment, but countries should try and balance it out by also investing in diplomacy. So the lesson learned from Iran and United States war from Taiwan policymaker is what I just analyzed. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.